10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Greetings, my fellow free love sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Thursday, October 30th, 2025. This is episode 1911. Obama floats regulatory journalism and make slavery again. Before I proceed, you can follow me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Looking Luck number 3, Looking Luck Roman number 3 with 3 eyes, or Looking Luck Roman number 3 podcast. Furthermore, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use the quorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. If you want to donate, go to PayPal.me or cash.app/Looking Luck number 3. Just to let all you folks know right now, I'm like holding on steam it for the time being. Got to do some, I say, readjustments, okay? But I'll be on there as soon as I can. Oh, my goodness. First of all, I have to apologize. I haven't really did a show all entire week. I had some missions and paying my homage to the fallen ones I love. And it's just really a shame these folks were young individuals. And but they were beautiful, beautiful people, one way or the other. But yeah, a lot of insanity as usual. I was like seeing like the whole Arctic probe been exposed, and all these folks were being gunned, discriminatory, arbitrary, or bad faith, and even people I don't even fond of, and I just renounce it all. And it's a real shame when you got a bunch of these dinkleberries in the federal level in government think they're smarter than everybody else, and we're just a bunch of damn morons. Well, I dare call treason. Prove me wrong if you care. And of course, the whole SNAP program looks like it's supposed to be have no fun. I'm going to have funding issues on All Saints Day, which is November 1st of Saturday. And of course, you have all these folks out there, mainly black women. I'm not saying all, but the ones that, oh, you can steal and do this, do that, do this, do that. And of course, you have a couple of lowlives trying to say the same thing about they want to go after people. Let me tell you something. Don't be surprised if you get repercussions. That's called the ramifications of cause and effect. And the question is, how many of them are plants are hired to do that? Always beware of the fear-mongering, media manipulation, which is on TV, radio, internet, social media, don't matter. But folks, the whole thing is decentralization is always the key. Because I was reading this stuff in the Epoch Times. They're saying about average of 15% of the people in the United States are on this SNAP program. And I remember many years ago, when I was working at supermarkets, I see people in their BMWs and fancy Mercedes-Benzes. They were flashing their food stamps. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I do recall one time I was giving this person a ride, and he wants to just take care of some business. He brought his girlfriend with the baby in the back of the vehicle, and I found out they were buying food stamps. I'm like, what the hell? You know, people don't want to work down here. Oh, I've been having a lot of issues. You don't understand the pressure I'm in. I'm like, look, when it comes to your destinies and journeys, choose wisely. I'm not going to tell people what to do, but always don't get anything. Don't believe you get anything for granted. You're not entitlement. No one owes you. I owe you nothing. All right. And furthermore, there's even a great amount of them are illegal aliens that came in under the Biden administration, the big Club of Rome platform. They gave them all the handouts. And don't get me wrong, many of them are trespassing and they're pawns of the game. I'm not talking about the violent criminals and all that. There's a bunch of them in there too. So it's happening around the world, folks. And I was like, even saw this little video clip. Okay, either aftermath of Jamaica, and now there's a thing called Jamaica Vision 2030. So was that hurricane organic or geo-modified? In other words, manufactured. Geo-engineering or geo-weather is actually is a fact. Even there's been documents and declassified. I guess Brennan talked about it too. It's just very dangerous, you can say. But it's just so many things are happening right now. It just really dawns on me. And I see these folks here are supporting the Animal Farm operatives, which is Rothschild approved. Don't be a faction slave. Be a sentinel, watcher, and do your own thing. Well, enough of that ranting. So I want to be reading a couple articles I've seen this morning. And this one here came from Armageddon Pro Substack page. And this one's here. Obama floats new forms of state-controlled journalism. Yeah. Come on, folks. All you Obama worshippers out there, stand up, give me the Caesar salute, and sing me God Bless the Patriot Act. Well, this is what Armageddon Pros has to say about this. Benjamin Barty came out today, and I'm just going to just do a little shrink here. Not too much on the Zoom. Notorious nemesis of civil liberties, one and all, Barack Obama is apparently and unsurprisingly on the same page as our Attorney General Pam Bondi, at least in the narrow sense that he also endorses a heavy state hand in regulation of information. Thank you, Barry. I want to look, think, and smell like you. I'll be a bend over Bob to the New World Order. And I'll continue on here. Part of what we're going to have to do is to start experimenting with new forms of journalism and how we use social media in ways that reaffirm facts and separate facts from opinion. We want diversity of opinion. We don't want diversity of facts. That, I think, is one of the big tasks of social media. By the way, it will require some government, I believe, regulatory constraints around some of these business models in a way that's consistent with the First Amendment, but that it also says, look, there is a difference between these platforms letting all voices be heard versus a business model that elevates the most hateful voices or the most polarizing voices or the most dangerous in the sense of inciting violent voices. Yes, and who is very good at that? Barry Soetoro, the man who spreads his butt cheeks to the one world order, another Bushite bawd. And I digress. It's always remarkable to watch enemies of free speech clip without fail perfunctory nods to the First Amendment into the middle of their anti-First Amendment tirades as if that meaningless caveat negates the entire rest of the speech. Among his many transgressions against the Constitution and basic decency while he occupied the White House, Barack Obama signed the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 that officially allowed CIA regime media outlets like Voice of America to deluge the American public with this propaganda. In reality, of course, via Operation Mockingbird and similar programs, the CIA has been quietly propagandizing Americans for decades since its inception, but Obama made it legal. That's right. Your president, your freedom fighter. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. God bless bend over Bobs like Barack Obama. I'm just having too much fun on this clown, okay? I'll continue on. Thomas Massie, the second coming of Ron Paul, as far as I'm concerned, has drafted legislation to roll back Obama's treason. Via Representative Thomas Massie, says here, today, Representative Thomas Massie, Republican from Kentucky, introduced H.R. 5704, the repeal the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2013 to protect American audiences from the domestic dissemination of federally funded propaganda by the State Department, the United States Agency for Global Media, and their component networks. The 2013 National Defense Authorization Act included the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, legislating that ended a prohibition on the federal government exposing American audience to its propaganda, said Representative Tom Massey. The repeal, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2013 repeals the 2013 Smith-Mundt Modernization Act to restore the long-standing firewall prohibiting federal domestic propaganda, stops domestic dissemination of propaganda by the State Department, United States Agency for Global Media, and their component networks, creates a secure mechanism for oversight by allowing members of Congress and accredited media to review propaganda materials sent overseas without enabling those materials to be exploited against the American people, prevents clandestine online influence operations by prohibiting the State Department and USAGM from creating covert social media accounts, websites, or podcasts to target Americans, requiring archiving of propaganda materials at the National Archives with 20 years of delayed public access, and added disclaimers identifying both the U.S. government as the source of the material and also the foreign audience for which the materials were intended. If you're so inclined, call your local legislator and let them know what they ought to co-sign and condemn the seditious ex-president while they're at it. What can we say, right? That's the gentleman named Benjamin Barty, author of Broken English Teacher, Note from Exiles. Always got to look at these things, folks. And I can say one thing for sure. I support this bill, and you should too. I will leave a footnote on this article so you can actually check it out. I'm getting messages, but I'm sorry. Can't open them up as I speak. But very intriguing when you have the fear-mongering and all this stuff has been going on for a very long time. This is why you question things, observe responsibly, and please think for yourselves. They don't want you to do that, but I do. And I know guys, the Obamanoids hate my guts. I have no shame because he is nothing more than a stooge, a stool pigeon, a puppet. A yes boy. Yes, master, I'll do as you say. And hey, people think he's a Muslim, in name only to be exact. But there's other claims as well on his personal life. But I'll just call them claims. Based on his actions, the guy is nothing more than a chump. Prove me wrong if you dare. Well, he was a lawyer. So what? He sucked at his job. And I say that with love. Well, enough of that. I'm going to do one more here. Be pretty brief. Yeah, this came from the Brownstone Institute. Came out yesterday, by the way. Good article. Says here, Universal Basic Income. Make slavery great again. It was written by David Bell. The evil of aimlessness. I once worked in communities supported mainly through a form of Universal Basic Income, or UBI. Most money was received from the government of no or token work or from mining royalties, while others worked digging on the community's land. There were walls black and heaving with cockroaches where children slept with dogs on stained mattresses below, and babies covered head to toe to pustular scabies while the mother complained about a sore back. This was not universal, but not uncommon. Other communities that stood out as strong and healthy had people working hard for a living, particularly in roles that reflected their culture, a very different economy. Men who once worked hard to support families lose the reason to do so when it makes no real difference, when the basics of life and leisure are equally available to those who work for them and those who do nothing. It's not a political issue, just a human behavioral and psychological one. Remove the need to work and the dignity that's striving and succeeding, especially before one's family, leads to inaction, loss of interest in the world, a loss of role, i.e., loss of dignity, and depression. This dampened by alcohol or drugs, wives and children suffer by beating up by drunk, frustrated, and drugged men. Having too frequently drunk parents ensures children are malnourished and aimless. This is not theoretical. It's seen all over the world where people of one culture are overrun by those of another and confined to subservience, economic and societal irrelevance, and handouts. Some people and communities break out of it, usually by finding ways to grow their local economy and achieve some form of self-governance and self-reliance. Breaking out is not common and requires an opportunity, the possibility to do so. Our brave new technocratic world, the road much of the developed world is currently is towards UBI, but without that potential for escape. We use this term develop in a technological sense, not a human sense. As it denotes technology rather than awareness, UBI will be introduced as a panacea, as artificial intelligence replaces a lot of jobs. The use of AI is increasing because it can accumulate wealth more reliably than employees. Amazon's plan to replace humans with robots will not only mean a few 100,000 human jobs gone at Amazon, but lots more high street shops brought it up and their employees and owners gone. This is why Amazon is moving to AI and robotics to increase profit for the few percent who are its beneficiaries by putting competitors out of business. AI may be overplayed or not, but what Amazon is doing will be widely repeated. The people out of work and large will be city and town dwellers who must obtain their food from shops or Amazon. They will need to be given money or food vouchers to do this. Governments will provide these because they cannot afford responsibility for abject poverty on a mass scale. And many in government also mean well. People will increasingly rent their housing from Blackstone or a similar corporate entity rather than own it, further increasing their dependence. For a while, some people will play online games or draw pictures and grow token lettuces on their balconies. But knowing this is just a window dressing on life. Then they will go the way of the communities in the first paragraph, taking families and communities with them. Government UBI will happen. It already does to some extent, but the future will see it on a far, far larger scale. It will not be cash handouts, but digital currency. This will be tightly controlled version as in a central digital banking currency or CBDC, because the government will claim responsibility for controlling the money it dispenses. CBDC is essentially food vouchers and intended to be. Your UBI will be yours as long as you use it for what the government allows within the time they allow. Well-meaning people are already building the social acceptability for this. Those suggesting now that the virtual society should prevent food vouchers or unemployment benefits from being used for sugar-based drinks or tobacco because believe already that dependent people have lost their right to autonomy. Again, this is not at all theoretical. It is exactly what this form of money is intended for. Most people in society will see its introduction as a good thing, as they are fine with limiting the freedom of others if told that it serves a greater good. Living as safe as slaves. In countries like Canada, if you protest against the government, you can already lose your right to buy or sell. If you need permission to obtain the basic of life and cannot make your own choices on the pursuit of happiness, and you are punished for questioning those who restrict you, then you are in a master-slave relationship. In time, most people will become essentially a slave of the UBI provider, the government. This is the design behind UBI and CBDCs. It is why very rich people, the people who own the AI and robotics that are going to make so much human labor superfluous, and see this as an excellent path. All the above will not seem at all dystopian. Governments will control their populations as part of saving the world. Saving the world is important and rarely convince a majority of the population that being saved is a good idea. We need governments to save us from climate catastrophe by stopping us from traveling, as our children are already told. We need large corporations to save us from pandemics, including those of the same corporations laboratories may develop. We need ever more expensive pharmaceutical injected into us to save us from the scourge of obesity, to save us from our own inability to control our eating. We will certainly need saving from mass unemployment and the inability of a large part of the population to earn their own keep. Saving people is, after all, the government's job. As the last few years have shown, convincing populations to indulge in self-harm on the pretext of being saved is much easier than we thought. We will slip back into slavery, into a feudal system, because most people will choose it. Yes, I will do this for my own good. I'll continue on. A conversation we are unlikely to have. So we need to talk about UBI because a lot of people think it is a harbinger of a great future. But is it something else? They think people will somehow flourish when they have nothing much useful to do. When they get money for being asbestos, hope I can pronounce that word correctly, and there is no compelling incentive to get out of bed in the morning. A temporary social welfare net is what society should do to protect its members and act with decency. UBI, permanent free money for the majority, is something else entirely. It will ensure that the vast majority can never break out of their lot and recover any semblance of the real economic autonomy necessary for societal flourishing. The UBI future is simply a return to the default of human societies through the ages, feudalism, but without even the relative purpose found in walking behind a plow. Human nature leads us to stay on top if we are already there, or wallow in depression if there is no potential for improvement. Depression, drugs, violence, neglect, and repeat. The UBI CBDC future. This is the orthodox understanding from a public health viewpoint. Social capital is a basic determinant of health and well-being. None of this is controversial. It can just be awkward politically. Over the past few years, many societies broke free of feudalism. This freedom has been a brief time in the sun. Accepting or rejecting universal basic income as the basis for fixing the rapidly approaching decimation of youthful employment will determine whether the sun keeps shining or we return to the oppressive societal default. Slavery for many will seem easier than struggling and far safer. Once dependent, the luxury of struggling may be gone. We need a real conversation before we turn irretrievably down that road. For most, that will probably not happen. Oh, yes, folks. That's what they want. Be like good little boys and girls, very compliant, and go, yes, master, may I have another? This day and age, belling up to the state is patriotic. We have to have them think for us, how to live, who to marry, etc. Well, as far as I'm concerned, one thing about technology, you can enslave yourself, be enslaved, or enhance. humanity. I support that. Second one. Even with artificial intelligence as a whole, we should be the controller, not the controlled. And one thing I always tell people, never trust the government. Because if you do, you will get duped when least expected. So I tell everyone, support your liberty-minded nature, your natural-born or God-given right. And I say that from the universal cosmos, not a particular deity. Decentralize yourselves. That's the greatest remedy when it comes to tyranny. That goes with feudalism, technocracy, oppression, etc. Be the sentinel, not the faction slave. Well, that will be it. I thank everyone for listening, but feel free to download and share this with your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. You can hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. I'll leave the articles on this episode. You can check it out for yourselves when I publish it. And if you want to hit me with donations, you go to paypal.me or cash.app/LokiLuck3. And if you want to support Armageddon Pros, Brownstone Institute, the links are there. Donate money, give them a little support, tell them LL3 sent you. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Till next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.